joining. I'm just going to give it like one more minute, see who's going to jump in. We have some, I'm Anna Lykoudis-Zafiris, and my friend Robin Cole and Bruce Lemmy are some of the group members from our New Territory United for Peace and Ending Systemic Racism group here in Sugar Land, Florida. We're a local group that came together with the murder of George Floyd, unfortunately, and all of us were called to help promote the end of systemic racism, work for meaningful change, and one of our projects is honoring the Sugar Land 95 in our area, hoping to put together a museum, an educational center, and memorial park. That's some of our local work. I believe that it's important, especially during this time, a lot of people, welcome all, a lot of people are averse from politics, but politicians are the ones that make decisions that affect our lives and affect so many lives, especially when we're trying to promote meaningful change and ending systemic racism. I wanted to give the candidates an opportunity to speak to our group, and we are recording this, so that way I will broadcast this to our group of over 300 people, and they'll have an opportunity to look at it at some other point. But as voters, we wanted to give you all a platform to, first of all, introduce yourself. And unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, virtual, I think, is the most efficient and safe way. And talk about your platform, distinguish yourself as you would like, and also speak to the issues of whether you believe systemic racism exists. What are some of your thoughts about promoting meaningful change and honoring the Sugar Land 95 as well? I do have a few of you that have expressed to me you do have some time constraints. And so therefore, I'm going to start off with Attorney Christian Becerra, who is running for judge. And Christian, welcome to our group and thank you for taking the time. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about the position you're running for, your platform, and your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Christian Becerra, again, running for 434th District Court. We are busy working out here, and thank you again for having me. I am running for a district court position here in Fort Bend County. It's a county-wide race, so if you live in Fort Bend County, you can vote for me. I am a lifelong resident of Fort Bend County. I'm the son of Mexican immigrants. My family stressed the importance of education to my brother and I. He is a practicing dentist in the Sugar Land area. His name is Troy Rodriguez. He's also my treasurer. We are working together with the new judges, and man, changes are happening at the courthouse right now. If you can't stand up and get excited about the changes that are happening within our community, I keep telling people, then you don't have a pulse. This is the day that we've been waiting for in Fort Bend County. Not to mention the cost, but just Fort Bend County in general. We come from the most diverse county in the United States of America. If you go back and forth and look at the candidates that we bring to you at the Democratic Party, we mirror our community. We are our community. I'm asking for your support. A little bit about what the 434th District Court does. It's a general jurisdiction court. I've been practicing law for 22 years. I've been a prosecutor at the DA's office. I've been a defense attorney doing general litigation out of the Rosenberg-Richmond area, but I practice all over the state, Brazoria, Travis County, Bexar County, you name it, but Fort Bend County is my home. That's where I was a prosecutor, and that's where I set up my office. We're looking to bring change to match the change that's coming in our community at the courthouse. I believe in the changes that Brian Middleton's bringing to the DA's office, that judges like Tony Wallace and Tina Watson are bringing to the courthouse. And I want to be a part of that change. I look forward to bringing a change, to working hard. This is only the first part. The real job starts when we win this election on November 3rd, but we cannot do it without your support. So today is the day. Tomorrow, early voting starts again. I'm going to ask every one of you to stand up, get out, have your voice heard, and vote. Again, my name is Christian Becerra. I'm running for the 434th District Court, and I look forward to having your vote. Thank you. Are we good? Ron, can you hear me?
You did a great job, man. You got my vote.
All right. All right.
Sorry, Christian. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I would also, and does anyone have any questions for Mr. Becerra? Robin, Bruce, Brian? Okay. All right. Well, we don't have any questions. We really appreciate you very much, and we look forward to seeing you have a successful campaign coming up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you, and stay safe. I would like to go to our next candidate, who is going to be speaking on behalf of herself, and also Carmen Turner, who's running for tax assessor. And Jennifer Cantu, would you mind going ahead and introducing yourself and telling us the same thing, your platform, what distinguishes you, your views on systemic racism, and supporting the Sugarland 95. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. First of all, it's great to be here. Just as they mentioned, you know, our dear friend Carmen Turner, you know, her mom right now is in the hospital, has had 2 back-to-back surgeries, and I'm here to speak in her behalf. Carmen Turner, she is running for our tax assessor. And when you think of Carmen Turner, you need to think of three eyes. She's here to inform our Fort Bend residents. She's here to bring innovation to our Fort Bend residents, and she's here to invest in our Fort Bend residents. Carmen is a native Texan mother and a business owner. When we talk about systemic racism, it's very present, and Carmen is fully aware of it, because sometimes our senior citizens are not addressed to some of the tax breaks that they could have. Our veterans, they have tax breaks that they could do. And these 3 eyes, in order for them to be implemented, we need to have a tax assessor that's here for the community and for the people. Her name is Carmen Turner, and she will be your next tax assessor. She will bring integrity, she will bring innovation, and she will be the voice that we've been needing. And all in all, Carmen says she will have an open door policy, and she plans to bring that customer service that is needed in Fort Bend County. 3 rings and you will be answered. And she wants to implement a lot of workshops. If you want to know more about Carmen Turner, you could look her up, votecarmenturner.com, or she says to please give her a call. Her number is 866-531-6662. Again, Carmen Turner for a tax assessor for Fort Bend County 2020. Okay. Now, I'm Dr. Jennifer Cantu. I'm running for County Commissioner, Precinct 1. My platform has not changed. We need to enhance our local economy through economic opportunities and entrepreneurship. We need to provide well-being health initiatives that target our special populations, our geriatrics, our toddlers. We need to do environmental impact assessments, address flooding, pollution, air quality, identify cancer clusters. We need to do rural and urban infrastructure development, means having road systems, bridges, and utility services, not just for today, but for tomorrow. My platform from the very beginning started on building coalitions. And I always say, I don't want to change something, because when you change something, you could always go back. But when we transform something, we cannot go back. I've said, I want to build coalitions while transforming Fort Bend together. And you're not voting for Carmen, for Khalid, for Jennifer, because we're women and because we're the first. You're voting for us because we're competent, we're capable, we're qualified women. We are what we need in Fort Bend County. Systemic racism, I've been very vocal of where I stand. It's present, it's available, but in order to bring change, we need to provide a seat at the table. If our communities do not have a seat at the table, then they are on the menu. Not only does we have a seat, but we all need to eat together. In order to address true systemic racism is to accept that systemic racism exists. And we cannot simply like or share something on social media.
The letter J, W-E-B-B, JR113 at AOL.com. Oh,
I got AOL too. My students
never go wrong with that.
All right. Okay. It's great. We're doing great. As I said, it's addressing it, it's working together, and inviting individuals to begin this conversation. In order to address anything, everybody needs to have a seat at the table. We need to address it, and we need to move forward, but bringing no one behind, but moving forward together. My name is Dr. Jennifer Cantu, and I will be your next commissioner, and let's break those ceilings together, but let's all have a seat at the table together. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Jennifer. And, you know, as some of us have already understood the controversy regarding the Jaybird statue down there in Richmond, having a county commissioner for Precinct 1 is so important, and all of the precincts, someone that will sign on to declarations that say anti-hate. We sign on for that because no one should be for hate, and helping have these statues and these remnants of a racist and painful and terroristic past removed from our public spaces and going into museums is something that our group, and not only our group, but many of the community who have overwhelmingly voted to see that happen. And unfortunately, we haven't seen it happen yet, but hopefully with the election of candidates who actually care for everyone in the community to feel welcome, we hope that that becomes a reality. And we thank you for taking your time and sharing with us. I'm sorry for my dogs, they agree.
No, and you're absolutely right. We did have an anti-hate resolution, and to think that we couldn't get everyone to sign it is ridiculous. It's very present. All of our commissioners should have signed it, but like we said, our voice is our vote. If we want to see the change and we want to begin the transformation, we can all make that difference by standing up and voting tomorrow, and not just you, but bringing 5 friends, texting 5 friends, calling 5 friends, emailing 5 friends, stalk 5 friends, and we could do this together.
Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best for a successful and safe campaign. Thank you for taking the time with our group. Thank you. Friends, we also have a candidate for Sheriff, Fort Bend County Sheriff Eric Fagan joining us. By hook or crook, we made it happen, Eric. And like I told the group earlier, this is being recorded, so if we'll have a chance to share it with our larger group later on so that they can hear what you all have to say. And we want to give you an opportunity to share, introduce yourself, share about your platform and what distinguishes you, and also address our group's concern about systemic racism and what meaningful changes you would like to see in the community, and also honoring the Sugarland 95.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your patience. As you know, I'm on another Zoom meeting as well, but I really wanted to come and speak to this group. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Eric Fagan, and I'm running to be your next Fort Bend County Sheriff. What distinguishes me against my opponent is this: I'm the only candidate in this race that has actual hands-on experience dealing with the mentally ill. Right now in our society, they're talking about law enforcement and dealing with the mentally ill. Well, I have that experience by doing psychological evaluation, gaining my master's of psychology and juvenile forensic psychology. When it comes to diversity, I want to bring that to the Sheriff's Department. If you look currently at the Sheriff's Department command staff, there's no one on that staff that looks like me or like Jennifer Cantu or like you. We have to put diversity in action. Diversity without inclusion is meaningless. It's just a word. I want to change that. another thing. I was at another Zoom function with my opponent, and we were debating. It was a cordial debate. But when we talked about systemic racism, I was shocked when he said he didn't see that in Fort Bend County law enforcement. Me being an African American all my life, I've seen it. And when I told him, I said, sir, I can't believe you've been in law enforcement this long and to say that there's not systemic racism in law enforcement. That's unconscionable to even make that statement. But when he made that statement, I told him, look, law enforcement treats people of color differently than it does the other side. We're not asking for special favors. We're not asking for special handouts. We're asking to be treated just the same and fairly. That's what I want to bring to Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department. A lot of people don't know. Sometimes there's less than 8 officers, deputy officers, patrolling the entire Fort Bend County. I made a statement I wanted to double the size of Fort Bend County. And what Republicans do? He did a scare tactic, saying I was going to break the budget. Well, I was shocked that he said that. Him being a constable understands we can get reserved officers. That's not costing the budget anything. He knew that, but he wanted to send out a scare tactic that I wanted to break the budget. Fort Bend County is growing immensely. It looks like over 25,000 new citizens are coming in each year. That raises our tax base, not counting the businesses as well. We can grow with the community. Fort Bend will hit over 1 million people by 2021, definitely by 2022. We can't be behind the curve. We have to look forward, have forward-thinking people, forward-thinking progressive candidates. That's your Democratic ticket. That's why I'm running, and that's why I will be the best sheriff for Fort Bend County with your blessing and with your help. As you can see, I have my daughter's name up there because I'm using her computer and I'm going to another computer for a website. But I'm very proud of my daughter. She's a doctor, so I'm glad to be behind her name. So thank you for having me. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer it, but I can only stay on for a few more minutes and jump back over. So if anyone has any questions, I'm glad to answer it now. Hey, Kathy.
Go ahead. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Fagan? Eric? Eric, you've been very kind with your time, and I know you spoke to our group over the summer and you laid out about a 20-minute detailed plan, your 7-point plan on how your vision for being the sheriff. And I know it included a lot of the community youth, and I think that was important. It also included addressing mental health issues, which also feed into the de-escalation. And that's one of the big things that we see is, why is everybody so hot? You know, if you got a gun, you got to be more responsible and more, you know, forward thinking. And I think, you know, I know with the pressing of time, please feel free to share with me your 7-point plan or anything you want in writing, and I will convey it to the group later on. I know that you're being pulled in many directions, and I think I speak for all of us. We are thanking you for running this race as a gentleman. We wish you a safe and successful election season, and thank you for taking the time to speak to our group and speak to the issues that concern us as citizens.
Thank you, and God bless. Bye, everyone.
God bless you too. Take care. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. The next speaker we have is a candidate, Angie Hanan, and she is running for Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees, position number 1. And I will let Angie introduce herself and her platform and distinguish herself and speak to the issues of systemic racism as well. Thank you, Angie, for joining us.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Good evening. Like she said, my name is Angie Hanan. I'm running for the Fort Bend ISD School Board, position 1. And I just want to remind everybody that everyone that lives in Fort Bend ISD votes for every board position. So it's not specific to where you live. So make sure you get out and vote for all 3 of those positions that are way, 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 way down on the ballot. We don't have enough time this evening for me to distinguish how I am different from my opponent, but I'm gonna take a short and sweet kind of shot at it. I am a mom of a Fort Bend ISD freshman in high school, and I've been in education almost 3 decades. So I've been in education a very long time, and the majority of that is working with early literacy, students in early literacy, students of diverse abilities and diverse backgrounds. And I'm also, I've worked with ESL students. I taught at Highlands Elementary. I was a literacy coach out at Blue Ridge, and my heart is about kids and about advocating for kids, but also advocating for parents, because I think parents sometimes don't know how best to advocate for their kids. So they really need someone that can be that voice for them. I really think in our district, I am so proud because I did not grow up in a district that looks like our district. And I'll maybe speak to that a little bit when I speak to systemic racism. But I'm so glad my daughter's getting this opportunity because we are so diverse, not only ethnically, but the language diversity here is amazing. And I think that one of the things probably that does distinguish me from my candidate or my opponent rather, is that I am very, very pro quality bilingual education programs, and I am not bilingual. I went through foreign language like probably many people my age did, and went through all the way through college, and still am not proficient. So I just think we need two-way programs, more like language immersion in Spanish, where English students have the opportunity to learn another language, whether that's Mandarin or some of our other languages in this district. I know that several years back, my opponent was on the board when they voted for the change to early exit model. And people that don't understand that, the goal by 3rd grade, you are transitioning to an all English program. And to me, that does not in any way, shape, or form create biliterate and bilingual students. So I would really like to get that in place. My other piece is I really think it's so important that we really are having high quality program evaluations. And that's overall looking at curriculum. That might be looking at a special program like ESL, bilingual, GT, special ed. But I come with the background understanding how to look at the data. I also think one of the key pieces is actually something that is missing frequently and was missing in a very important audit that was done called the program management audit. There were no students or parents involved in looking at that. And I think that is one of the pieces that's important, because I think kids, we need to be asking them if they see themselves in the curriculum. Is the curriculum meaningful to you? Is it reaching you? Is it getting to you? And that's really important. And I'm not sure we're doing that in all cases. Another thing about program evaluation that's so important, it's to look at how are we under identifying our students. Maybe that's our students of color, maybe that's our low income students, and how are we over identifying in some areas, maybe like special ed, and under identifying in areas like GT. So I think we have a lot of things that we need to be looking at. I think that as far as systemic racism, I think I came to the Houston area, and my teacher preparation program did not prepare me to teach. And when the majority of my students, like I said, have been either recent immigrants or students from diverse backgrounds. And so I do think our school board needs to work with surrounding colleges and their own teacher training program to work on culturally responsive teaching. You know, what that looks like to work with with students that don't look like you, whose families might not come from backgrounds like you do, and to actually have those hard conversations, because they are hard conversations, but to have those with our kids about anti-bias, and actually get that into the curriculum. And I know next year we're going to have an African American Studies course offered according to the district, but it's an elective course. So we have to work harder to getting that into our conversations, not just in a kind of like a sidebar course. I think it is an important course, don't get me wrong. And I'll just end on, I do think we do have some good things going in this district, and there are some things I'm really proud of. I think almost every parent would want their child to have the attributes that they've spelled out in the profile of a graduate. And, you know, if anybody has kids in Fort Bend, you've heard of the profile of a graduate. But what I need to see happen, and one of the reasons I want to be on the board, is because I think what we have written isn't being implemented well and implemented for every single one of our kids. One of the big pieces is that every kid is equipped with skills for life. They're literate, they're technology proficient, they have respect for self and others. We need to be actually making sure that happens, and we need to be evaluating to see if we are actually, does our curriculum teach these things, and are kids actually able to perform these things in there. And so with that, well, I will speak to the Sugarland 95 very quickly because you asked that as well. You know, it's easy to say things when you were not on the board at the time that it was happening. I was very discouraged over the past, since 2018, how this has been handled, and I have followed it very closely. And the one thing that I am concerned. I know that I believe it was Ken Paxton. I'm not, I can't remember who issued, but the state did issue a proclamation that Fort Bend ISD can maintain the cemetery at the Sugarland 95 area over by the James Reese Center. I do not think that Fort Bend ISD is the best organization to maintain that cemetery. I believe that the county might be a better place. I know they are looking for someone, a business partner or some other partner, to help maintain that. And what I would like to see, and I need to collaborate with the board, of course, and I would need to collaborate with administration, but I would really like to see that as a reflection park where there are some maybe trees planted and some benches and some informational items out, like you would see, you know, on a beautiful walking trail, or something you might see on the, you know, near the mall in DC, where kids could actually go out and reflect and have maybe a quiet place to think. But I do think that the county would be a good choice, but I know we've steered away from that. So I'm sorry I took so long, but I wanted to address your questions, and I thank you for the platform to talk. Thanks.
You too, Angie. We really appreciate it. Did anyone have any other questions for Angie?
Yes,
Robin?
I do. Hi, Angie. I'm Robin Cole, and I'm the lady who is on Team Angie. I actually have your sign on my lawn because I believe in what you stand for, and I saw what you actually posted on your Facebook, and I just believe that you're the right person to be a partner with us. And so just wanted to know what your open door policy is. How easy is it going to be for us to be able to sit down with you and just work together on the Sugarland 95 as well as other issues in Fort Bend County?
Well, I think, thank you, first of all, Ms. Cole, for supporting me. I appreciate that. I think that, you know, I wish there were other people on here to testify to my openness, but I've been a very active volunteer in Fort Bend ISD for a very long time, and I work specifically with a group that we try to help educate parents. And you know, parents parents call me all the time because they see something I've posted out there on some other organization, and I talk to them. And even today, someone had asked somebody a question about me and said, you know, private messenger. She will answer you. Or email her. So I do pride myself in being open to sitting down with people. And I'm going to tell you, I met about 3 weeks ago on a Zoom call with an amazing group of advocates from Marshall High School. And I was really cheerleading for them because I said, we need more champions for our students. And it was a diverse group made of alumni from Marshall, community members that don't even have kids there. And I'm very open to that, Ms. Cole. And so, I know that it's a big job and it's a volunteer job, but I know what I'm getting myself into. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Cole.
all the best. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Angie. If you do have any information or any links that you'd like to share with our group, I'll pass it on. And we thank you for taking your time. There's a lot of issues, and we appreciate you for you were responsive. I can attest to that. I sent you an email inviting you, and within the same day, you gladly agreed. And we thank you for taking that time. We wish you a successful and safe campaign. And thank you again. And hopefully we get to talk again at more length. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, our next candidate is Bridgette Smith-Lawson. She's running for Fort Bend County Attorney. And Bridgette, are you there? There you go. I'll let you do your introductions and your platform and talk to our group. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the invitation this evening. I am Bridgette Smith-Lawson, the Democrat nominee for the Fort Bend County Attorney position. I'm so grateful to be about 16 days out from election, and we are working hard every day at the polls to reach as many voters as we can and encouraging them to vote and also vote blue. We are here at this stage and still just happy to communicate our message out to the voters. I will just kind of get to the questions you asked. The question you asked was what distinguishes me from my opponent. And I would like to just make sure that everyone understands the role of the county attorney first, because I think that helps to shed some light on what distinguishes me. The county attorney position is essentially managing assistant county attorneys who are charged with representing the county government in civil matters, providing legal advice to our commissioners, the county judge, also to our largest policing agencies, which is the Sheriff's Department and our constables. In addition, the county attorney's office is charged with representing 2 state agencies, and that's Child Protective Services and Adult Protective Services. So the county attorney's position is the attorney for the government of Fort Bend County. And all things that are civil matters would fall towards that office for support. Now, my experience and my credentials make me the best suited for this position. Simply stated, I am a 17-year public servant for you all right now as Texans. And I have extensive experience representing governmental agencies and also extensive experience in training across other state agencies. I understand how government works, both on the county level, the state level, and also how federal dollars impact what we do here locally at home. I have been an attorney for 17 years, but I have also not only represented governmental agencies, I've been in private practice as well, representing individuals as well as businesses. My background includes several practice areas, including criminal law, family law, personal injury, bankruptcy, 7-11 and 13, as well as tax court at Lytom work, which is basically when the county sues you to get your property because of taxes, as well as guardianship probate at Lytom work. In addition, immigration law, and of course, I can tell you government law, because it's a different practice in terms of representing governmental agencies on a daily basis. I do want you all to know there are thousands of attorneys in Fort Bend County that live here, but there's not too many of us who have experience in representing governmental agencies, who have been doing the work for years, and also managing other attorneys who work and represent governmental agencies. This is a practice that is unique, and it is one that I can say that not too many women of color or men and women of color have an opportunity to work in, let alone move up the ladder in. But I'm grateful to God for the opportunities He's given me so far. My title right now is the managing attorney for the Office of General Counsel, Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. And I have had up to 23 counties that I've been responsible for in terms of my attorneys and managing them in their representation of a state agency across those areas. In addition to always having to be on call and responding to issues that are not just specific to child welfare, but also reviewing leases that come across our desk for certain property. We just had a lease renewal out at the Rosenberg office. In addition to just managing daily functions, caseworkers get into car accidents, etc., just dealing with hiring functions, providing legal advice on a various broad span of things. So all of those things that I've done over the past couple of years, I truly believe make me fit for this position. I am a member of the Texas District and County Attorney Association. And of course, you know, that's something, an organization that you just don't get to join just because you just want to be a member of. You have to be closely associated with the work. And I am grateful again for the opportunity of giving the bulk of my legal career to public service. And I'm running for this office to truly make a difference and impact our Fort Bend families in a positive way. So again, I am running because my skill set is congruent to this position, not just because I'm seeking a title. And I tell people this, it's almost if you had a specific medical condition and you needed treatment, would you go to a general practitioner or would you want to go to a doctor who specializes in this area? I am your specialized doctor, okay? Just to kind of say it like that. So do I believe that systemic racism exists? Yes, definitely. You know, it is in every corner and nook and cranny of our lives, and we just don't realize it. And I think now it's kind of been made aware to us that we're seeing it obviously for what it is. Like just a perfect example is 2020, and we still have firsts within our community, you know, first women and first Blacks and first Muslims and first this and first. That's not because we haven't had people who have been qualified. That's because there are invisible barriers that have been in place that have limited our abilities to move up into certain arenas and to have control. So systemic racism is everywhere in our criminal justice system, our housing, our medical care, even our political powers. Not trying to make this a political debate, but if you look at the slate of candidates on one party and look at the slate of candidates on the other side, you will see the lack of diversity. So it's not because there's not people that are not qualified out there. There are barriers and there are inherent biases in people's minds that make them feel as though certain people are not qualified or that they have to have 3 times more experience and knowledge and skills to be qualified as compared to other counterparts. So I plan to use every ability, resource, tool, and outlet that I can as the county attorney to drive out and narrow down and drill down to issues of systemic racism within our Fort Bend County government. My platform has always had angles to address contracting, allowing for HUB, historically underutilized businesses, to have an opportunity to bid for our county government, county work, also in providing support to our law enforcement agencies regarding how they police, when they police, issues of human trafficking, of course, mental illness. I want to work with our constable. I see Nabil Shike on here. I want to work with Eric Fagan, our sheriff candidate, so that we can work with law enforcement policing to better serve our community by giving them the awareness, the tools, the legal training, so that they are aware of those inherent implicit biases that they have when they're out there on the street. So systemic racism, it's there, it's here. We just have to be able to be equipped, knowledgeable, and culturally aware to drill it out and get rid of it. So the Sugar Land 95, definitely, I know that the county government would be in a much better position to be over that land and over that those remains than a school district. I mean, if you just say that out loud, it just makes sense that the county government would have more resources, ability, tools, and even just assets, rather to just maintain the remains and make a more honorable memorial to our to those individuals. So I've been watching the Sugar Land 95 issue since it started, and of course issues of convict leasing. I remember back in 2019, February 2019, I hosted a program for youth and invited Judge KP George to come and talk to us about convict leasing. And then we went on a tour to the Varner Hog Plantation so that we could see and walk through slave quarters and learn about it in 2019 for our children to absorb that and be able to have that experiential learning with it. So Sugar Land 95 is an issue that is ongoing, as well as the monument down in Richmond. And if elected, best believe I will be very vocal about what we should do right regarding the Jaybird Monument, as well as the Sugar Land 95, and of course, balancing the needs of my client and our constituents. So that is pretty much me in a nutshell. Trust me, I could talk for hours, but that's just a summary, a little snippet of why I believe that I'm the most qualified, and my views on systemic racism, and also my views on the Sugar Land 95, as well as the Jaybird Monument. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bridgette Smith Lawson? Okay, Bridgette, we really appreciate, I'm calling everybody by first name because I consider you all friends of the community. So I apologize for my lack of formality. Bridgette, we really appreciate you taking the time, and I give you a lot of credit because we know how hard that work is that you do, and to have all the accomplishments that you do and take the time to speak to the community. We hope that you have a safe and successful election, and we hope that members of the community will have access to the county attorney in case there's any complaints of discrimination or harassment or brutality and by people that have color of authority. We hope that they have a place that they are welcome and they have a seat at the table and have their concerns addressed too.
You bet. As a matter of fact, I do want to be able to create some community partnership with my office, have like just different individuals from different backgrounds of our community to give us an idea of like the ears to the street on what's going on. You know, when you're representing a client, you're always going to get your client's perspective, but you also need to be aware of what the community, the public that you serve, what their views are and perceptions are about what the work that you're doing. So I definitely want to have those stakeholders, those community partnerships to walk in tandem with us. So, and be accessible in every way that I can.
Thank you so much, and we hope to be part of your community group and keep you guys on track. Thank you, and good luck with everything. We're rooting.
And may I be excused? I'm sorry, I need to take care of some things.
Yes, ma'am. And
okay,
if you need to share any information with us or any links, please do, and I'll be happy to share that with the group. Thank you again,
I'll put my website in my chat.
Okay. Thank you. Our next speaker tonight is going to be Kathy Cheng. She is a judicial candidate for the Texas Supreme Court, place number 6. And there she is. Hi, Ms. Cheng. How are you, Kathy?
Hi.
And nice. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. And I just want to, before Kathy speaks, I want to say that judges really matter. Judges are very important public servants in our communities, even on the local and Texas Supreme Court level, and even in the federal level. Right now, with the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett, and her nomination process, I was reading an article that she ruled that the N-word used in the workplace does not make a hostile work environment. And that goes to show you how disconnected someone can be from the actual issues that many people face in their work environment, where all they want to do is work with dignity and respect. So let me tell you that it may not be a glamorous job to some, but judges are very, very important. And with that, I would like to introduce Kathy Cheng for the Texas Supreme Court, Place 6. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Sugarland 95. I am the proud Democratic nominee.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm the proud Democratic nominee for Texas Supreme Court, Place 6. Don't worry about the place number. This is a statewide position, which means that anyone registered in the state of Texas can vote for me. This election cycle, we actually have the opportunity to gain 4 seats on the Texas Supreme Court, and we have 4 wonderful Democratic nominees running for that position. And then we also have 3 wonderful Democratic nominees running for the Court of Criminal Appeals. So give you a little background. The Texas Supreme Court is the highest civil court in the state of Texas. Now, on the Court of Criminal Appeals, that is the highest criminal court in the state of Texas. Both courts composed of 9 justices. Those 9 justices on both courts have composed of all Republicans. Imagine this. Imagine you go into a courtroom anywhere in the state of Texas, and you walk into the courtroom and you're a party to the courtroom procedure, and you see 12 jurors of the same makeup. Do you honestly think you're going to have a fair and just outcome? I have yet to find a Texan across the state of Texas that would say, yes, you could. So bring this to the next level on the Texas Supreme Court. When you have 9 justices of the same makeup, all Republicans, same mindset, do you really think the interpretation of law would be best for all Texans? See, folks, I am a private practitioner out of the greater Houston area. My areas of practice have consisted of complex commercial litigation, family law, probate, tax, real estate, and majority of those type of cases are heard by the Texas Supreme Court if they take those cases to be heard, because Texas Supreme Court is the court of last resort, but it's also a discretionary court. What's so important about this court and how would it impact you? The reality is majority of folks would probably never go before a trial court, more or less the Texas Supreme Court. So why should you care about the courts? Well, as you've seen in our recent rulings, where the Texas Supreme Court failed to expand the vote by ballot for the COVID situation. Well, on the other hand, they themselves are sitting behind Zooms listening to oral arguments. During the rise of COVID-19, when COVID situation was increasing in this country and in the state of Texas, they decided to lift a moratorium on eviction cases and debt collections. Well, people are out of jobs during COVID. They themselves are collecting paychecks still behind the Zoom panel, listening to oral arguments. Folks, these are the type of disconnect we have on the Texas Supreme Court with the 9 justices. Now, why am I the better candidate besides what I've just already said? Compared to my opponent, well, I'm not appointed. I'm going to be elected by you, all Texans across the state of Texas. My opponent, she was actually voted out in 2018, fired by the constituents who she served. In the 1st and 14th Court of Appeals, that's in the state in Houston. She was fired in 2018, and with the good old nepotism network, picks up the phone, gets a promotion to the current Supreme Court position. Folks, I don't know about you, but as one of my colleagues, Justice Triana, says, that's called failed up. You failed your job, you got fired, and you get promoted. That is not right. There's another candidate, incumbent, who's also in that situation, place 8. What we have here, folks, it's not justices elected by constituents. It's justices, 7 of the 9, either appointed by the prior governor or the current governor. 7. We would have had 5 positions up on the Texas Supreme Court, but instead the recent justice who retired decided to hold off so that that position could be appointed by the current governor. See, folks, the games that they're playing, it's taking the constituents' right to vote for their elected officials. This is what's been happening for almost 25 years. These 2 panels, Texas Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals, have resulted in all Republicans because of the straight ticket voting we had before. Well, with the 7 statewide judicial candidates traveling across the state of Texas, either Zoom or by actual driving, we're reaching to constituents to let them know these courts impact you. Because this court, by the way, will be listening to issues like gerrymandering. Because in 2021, when redistricting happens, it's going to be the courthouse that decides what happens. Because as we've seen lately, everything leads to the courthouse. The Republican side have been so smart about this that they've been packing the judicial branches on the federal level and state levels with their own appointees. And folks, the famous saying about don't bite the hand that feeds you, well, that's the reality of the Texas Supreme Court, which is why it has earned them a reputation of being corporate friendly and also to their stakeholders. And who are these stakeholders? Well, these are the top 9 law firms in the state of Texas. These are the top contributors to the Republican justices. See, while they have over $2 million cash on hand in their accounts, they're using those for negative ads. They're using those to essentially making sure that Texans will re-elect them. But this time around, Texans are smarter. The sleeping giant have woken up because we all know just how important the Texas Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals are. And not just those top high courts, but every court position up and down the ballot. As you'll probably hear later on from candidate Khalid Morgan and other candidates, these positions need not be left behind. Like the military motto says, leave no man behind. I'm asking you, leave no Democrats behind. Because when you elect Democratic judges into office, you are making sure any courtroom you walk into in the state of Texas, you're going to know you're going to have fairness and just outcomes. Look at what happened to Harris County when we elected in 2018, those 17 wonderful women of color into office. Now, the Harris County court system is a little bit friendlier and a little bit fairer than what it was before. And that's what's going to happen when you elect me into office and all the statewide judicial candidates, along with my sister colleagues down the road, Judge Khalid Morgan later down. But the reality is, folks, I know you're gung-ho about the presidential race. I know you want to take back the White House. I know you want to take back the legislative house, but we can't do that until we win the statewide race. And with your help, with your hard work and determination, not only will we take back the White House, not only will we take back the legislative house, we're going to take back the courthouse to make sure that we have justice, fairness, and integrity back in the court system. I'm Kathy Cheng. I stand for change. Stand with me and vote Democrats all the way through. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to explain some of the important things that have happened, especially with the Texas Supreme Court and the appointments and how the actual citizenry is not really represented. And we're kind of overwhelmed with the special interests and the corporate interests. And we appreciate that you validate that we deserve equality. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you as if you can comment on the issue of systemic racism and civil rights from a standpoint that where you are.
Here's the issue. Recognizing systemic racism is not enough. We must acknowledge its existence. It's one thing to say, I identify that as systemic racism. It's another thing to admit it. And that's the problem with our country. We have not admitted that. We see so many people say, yes, systemic racism, we recognize it. But when we don't admit it and do something about it, which is why Black Lives Movement have come to the way it is, we need to come out and say, look, not just the African-American communities coming out, but civilians, all civilians need to come together as a coalition and say, we will not tolerate this. This exists, we recognize it and we admit it, and we need to do something about it. Until we all come together as a group, we will not be able to resolve this issue. Also, when we do recognize it and admit it, we must also defend it by coming together with democracy. Why is that? Well, unless we address it and take care of it right then and there with the various ethnic groups coming together and say, we will not tolerate this. We will make sure that our brothers and sisters, regardless of what race and what gender identity or what religious affiliation, we're going to come together and fight this together and preserve democracy. This will not go away. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, when that came into place, that law was enacted. Unfortunately, what that allowed this country to do was say, yeah, I recognize it, but it probably wouldn't happen because we have the Civil Rights Act. That's the problem. See, we have so many laws in the books, but we don't effectuate or demand that it be worked. That's what has led to the systemic racism and also implicit biasness. We need to understand that implicit biasness exists. And as a woman of color, when I'm elected into office, I'm going to make sure that and understand that every decision I make impact every Texan. And we need to make sure that because of that acknowledgement, I'm going to be more so in being cautious and seeing every angle of the gray areas in the law. Because as we know it, the law isn't always black or white. There are gray areas, and we need to make sure we see every perspective of the gray areas so that when it's interpreted fairly for all. Systemic racism is not something that cannot be dealt with. It can. It's only whether we choose to deal with it or not. And I'm telling you, I'm one of the proponents of making sure we de-bias implicitness, bias, as well as systemic racism. Because as a woman of color, I've been discriminated. I've seen it being discriminated by my fellow colleagues. I know what it's like. So I am more concerned about making sure whatever I do is going to be fair and just for everyone.
Thank you so very much. Does anyone have any other questions for our candidate, Kathy Cheng? Kathy, I think you're preaching to the choir here, but whatever you said is absolutely true. We need people that are going to fight on all levels, whether it's a school board level or a justice position or a sheriff or a constable or a state representative. The fact that you all are taking your time to acknowledge the existence of systemic racism, but also acknowledge that you need to do more than that. You need to fight against it and make sure that we look for biases and we look to make things fair and just for people is very significant. We want to wish you all the best for a safe and successful campaign. And did you want to add anything else?
Yes, I do. I just want to say, let's not make this into a moment, okay? This is the presidential election, but this should be a movement. Every election, we should be so proud to be an American to cast that vote, not just because we want the ID10T out of the White House. It should be like this every election cycle. We should not wait and say, okay, we've seen the problems, and then we want to make America move forward and better. No, every election, because that is our patriotic duty.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. We appreciate your passion and your conviction. And again, we wish you the best success, and please share with our group any contact or additional information you want to share with us about you. And if you would like to share for the other judicial candidates running for the Texas Supreme Court, we would be happy to look at it. We thank you so much, Kathy. And today you came as a stranger to us and left as a friend. We wish you the best. Our next candidate is going to be Kali Morgan. She's also running for judge here in our county, and I'm going to let Kali talk to us and introduce herself and speak to the issues that we previously addressed.
Thank you all so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. My name, I am your Democratic nominee for the 505th District Family Court. You know, like Kathy said, we need change at every level. Change starts at home, here locally, in your local elections, especially when in your lower courts. Before you get to Kathy, you may not ever see Kathy up on the Supreme Court, but the odds are a lot higher that you might run into me down at one of your local trial courts. And so it is important to pay attention to who single level. It takes all positions. We need to change everywhere. We can't pick and choose and change this bench, but not this one, this position and not this one. It won't work. It won't work unless we elect people across the board who are committed to change, who are committed to positive transformation, and who are committed to moving the county in the direction that it needs to go. Now, with regards to systemic racism, I want to thank you all for even having this discussion. A lot of people are not even brave enough to have a discussion like this and to put it out there like this. So I do want to extend my thanks for having the discussion. But in addition to being aware of it, we also have to start calling it out. We have to have a zero tolerance policy for it in every facet, whether we're at home, at work, socializing with friends. We have to call it out when we see it. That is the only way to put an end to it. And unfortunately, it is very present in our court system. There are, racial inequalities in our criminal justice system with how frequently African-American and other minorities are charged with crimes, in sentencing, in the length of jail time that's given in those cases, but it also extends to family court. So the court that I'm running for, the 505th, it's a family court. Our family courts hear cases like divorce, child custody, child support, but our family courts also hear CPS cases, child protective services cases, moved from their parents and they're put into the foster care system. And there is systemic racism as it pertains to the outcomes for children, African-American and other minority children. African-Americans and other minorities are overrepresented in the child welfare system. There are disparities in how Black children are disciplined in schools. We know that, which leads to a higher percentage of Black children in the juvenile criminal justice system, but also in the child welfare system, more likely to be validated for abuse or neglect as opposed to their white counterparts. And what that means is once they're validated for abuse or neglect, they end up with a case in family court. Black and brown children are more likely to enter the foster care system. And once they get into the foster care system, they stay in the foster care system a lot longer. And sometimes they don't come out than their white counterparts. And we have to start asking ourselves, why is this happening? And what are we going to do about it? Part of my role now, and I'll get into a little bit of my background. I'll kind of do my professional experience backwards. Right now, I do work for the state. So, becoming a judge is a public servant. I'm already a public servant. I've been a public servant for almost 10 years. I work for the state of Texas, representing the state in child welfare cases right now. Part of my role in doing that is being on call. I'm on call essentially to take, to advise state employees when there's been a child that they believe that has been abused or neglected and they're seeking to remove that child from his or her home. They're not authorized to do that until they speak to an attorney to find out if legal requirements have been met and if they've done everything according to the law and according to state policy. And so that's part of my role, taking those calls. They come in at any given moment. And in doing so and in giving advice on those cases, I have to filter through what I've been told because I'm trying to figure out, are you making this decision based on what's going on? Are the children really in danger, or is this your perception of danger? Because we all have our own perceptions and we all are viewing life through our own lenses. And a situation may look one way to you and it may look a different way to me. And I think that it needs to be that way because it becomes dangerous when everyone involved in this system sees things exactly the same way. I'll give you an example. I once had a judge who refused to remove a child from the foster care system and let her go and live with her grandmother because the grandmother didn't have a separate bedroom from her. And he said, where's she going to sleep? Well, she's a 10-year-old girl. She's going to sleep with her grandmother. I was the only one in the room who didn't think that it was odd that a 10-year-old would sleep with her grandmother. That was normal to me. That made sense to me, but to everyone else, that was appalling. And as opposed to she was sent back to foster care because she couldn't. And it's that type of stuff that is happening where people are only viewing life and situations through their very narrow experience. And it's dangerous when it comes to our families. These decisions that are made in family court can potentially devastate a family and they change the trajectory of a child's life. almost instantaneously. And so I offer a fresh perspective, a much needed different perspective. We cannot have the same way of thinking in all 3 of our family courts in Fort Bend County. That's dangerous for our families. That's dangerous for our children in Fort Bend County. Not that poor decisions are being made earlier. If you go and you have a jury and everyone looks the same, do you really believe that you're getting a fair trial? If all of our courts look and act and think the same, what does that do for Fort Bend County children? What does that do for Fort Bend County families? And so, you know, I am proud of the work that I currently do. Prior to that, I have been in the private practice of family law. I represented parents, grandparents, and any type of case that can be brought in family court. My experience kind of runs the gamut from the beginning of the family code now to the end. The child welfare chapters are the last chapters in the code. And so over my almost 16 years now of practicing family law, I've pretty much handled almost, I'm not going to say we'll find that one little thing I didn't do, but I've handled pretty much most cases that can be filed in family court. I also have worked for the state as a disciplinary counsel for the state bar of the agency that licenses us, that gives us the authority to practice law here in Texas. And so they have a disciplinary counsel's office if someone files a grievance against their attorney. And I was actually hired because of my family law knowledge. They needed an internal attorney who understood the mechanisms and the workings of family law so that they could have someone in-house to recognize when a family law case was not handled. I did that for a while, and my role was to review these cases, to review the attorney's handling of these cases, their client funds, to make sure that they have been ethical and that they had not violated the disciplinary rules that we have to abide by as attorneys. I can tell you that integrity is important to me. I can tell you that the state definitely would not have hired me to scrutinize the work of other attorneys if I didn't have integrity myself and if I didn't have high standards myself. And so it's important in these cases because there's a lot of games that are played in family court, a lot of cronyism, a lot of favoritism, decisions being made because of who your lawyer is or who this person is. And it's just wrong. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I've seen it time and time again, no matter the county, different courts, I've seen it. And I will attest that the atmosphere in Harris County changed after 2018. It did. A lot of people don't know, and I won't take up too much more time, but a lot of people don't know that, especially in those child welfare cases, if parents can't afford an attorney, then, you know, they get court appointed attorneys because they're at risk of having their parental rights terminated. And so they get court appointed attorneys and the children get an attorney. And there's supposed to be a fair rotation of basically, if you're a licensed attorney and you're qualified and you've checked all the boxes and done all the things you need to do, you can go to that court and sign up to get court appointments. I would like to represent parents. I would like to represent kids in these cases. We have to have diversity in those court appointments. Everybody cannot be the same. Everybody can't come from the same walk of life because our families that are in the system are not all the same. This is not a cookie cutter job. But what ends up happening, unfortunately, a lot of times is it's the same handful of people that are put on every case. And there's a lot of unfair things happening and it's not being open to everyone the way that it should be. And so something that stands out to me after 2018 in Harris County is one of our new judges, immediately after she took the bench, she posted on Facebook, if anybody wants a court appointment in my court, come see me. And I almost fell out because I've known people for years who've been trying to get on the court appointment list, but it was limited to this person, and this person because they were in the judge's inner circle. And so it does matter who's on that bench. Fairness matters. I don't have a platform, but I have a vision. And one of my aims is to restore trust in the court system, particularly in our family court system, because people don't trust it. They come in already feeling like the deck is stacked against them. They come in already expecting not to be treated fairly, expecting things not to go their way. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're right. And it does happen. When you look at how much power a judge has a lot of power. It can be used for good or it can be used for evil. And we need to make sure that we're electing judges who are going to be committed to using their authority for good and to doing the right thing. And that's essentially what I've been running on. Experience, I have it, compassion and integrity, because it's very important. I'm just here to do the right thing. I guarantee you no decisions will be made on who this person is. And because I went to law school with them and because they live in my neighborhood, none of that will be happening. We're going to be making decisions based on the law and based on the facts. And the law is going to be what it is, and it's not going to change. And I'm not going to get amnesia and act like I forgot it and twist it and make it work. And all the things that I've seen as an attorney practicing in these courts that I've been so frustrated with for years. And I realized finally the only thing that can be done is to run for office then. You know, if you're not happy about it, go do something about it. And that's essentially how I got here. Not a politician, but I'm going through the political process because I do aspire to bring much needed change to our court system. We have to recognize these biases. We have to have a zero tolerance policy. I believe someone else said earlier, diversity without inclusion is futile. If we're not going to be inclusive, what are we even doing? And so we have to make sure that our leadership in Fort Bend County looks like Fort Bend County. And did I answer all of the questions that I was supposed to answer?
I have a question. I have a question.
Sure.
So I don't know enough about those numbers, like the 505th. So is that over all of the courts in Fort Bend County, or like a certain, like Sugarland? We live in Sugarland. So would all the Sugarland
Yes.
issues be a part of your jurisdiction?
Yes. So the district courts are countywide. They serve the entire county. So no matter what city you live in, so the district courts will serve you. So whether it's a criminal district court, civil, or a family, it's countywide. So in my case, there are 3 family courts in Fort Bend County. And the 505th is one of them. It's the newest created court. It was created in 2015. And the incumbent was appointed by Governor Abbott to that bench in 2015. And so it does anywhere in Fort Bend County, if there's a family law matter, custody, child support, divorce, CPS, it will get filed in the district clerk's office, and then it gets filtered to one of the 3 family courts.
And my other question is, do you have yard signs? Because
I do.
I do have 4 or 5 of them in my yard, and I would be so honored to have yours in my yard too, so that my neighbors can know who you are. And
Sure.
Anybody else on the call, if you have yard signs, it is my pleasure to put your signs there.
Okay, well, I will put my email address in the chat, and if you send me your address or find me on Facebook and send it to me, then I will definitely bring you one this week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kali. Any other questions for Kali? Kali, thank you for speaking to the realities that are faced by so many in our county, and the fact that everyone wants to feel included, everyone wants to feel that they're treated fairly,
That's
and
right.
everyone wants to feel that there's justice for all, like we say in the pledge. And
That's what we
so
say.
I like what you said, that you saw so many things that were not right. And what are you going to do? I mean, complaining only gets you so far. You're actually putting yourself out there and doing the brave thing. And we're here to support you. I think I can speak on behalf of the group. I do have your yard sign out there, and we'll be happy to distribute. Please share your information with our group, so that way, like I said earlier, the video is recorded, the Zoom call, so other people can reach out and learn more about you. And we wish you a safe and successful campaign. We appreciate you,
so
and we would be honored to have such a qualified and outspoken and compassionate judge like yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And my website is my first name, last name, KhalilMorganforJudge.com, FOR Judge, KhalilMorganforJudge.com, and I'll put it in the chat as well. I'm going to stay on. I'm just turning my camera off because I'm going to go finish dinner so that my kids can eat and go to bed, but I'll be listening. I'm just going to turn off the camera so that I can go be mama for a few minutes.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Kali. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight, and we have 3 more, so thank you all for staying with us and being patient. I have listed as Nabil Shike. He is running. Nabil, are you here? Oh, there he is. Yes, Nabil. Nabil is running for Fort Bend County Constable, Precinct 4, and he is a very dynamic young man. He came to our meeting over there at the Fort Bend ISD building when we were at the Reese Center in honoring the Sugarland 95. So we know his heart is in a place of passion and civil rights. We would like to hear from you, Nabil. Thank you for joining us. And go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your platform and your vision.
Sure. Well, thank you guys for having me today. It's been a very, very busy day for us and a very busy week. You know, it just doesn't stop. But, you know, I'm very proud and blessed to be in the position that I am in today. So just a little bit about myself. I've been a police officer since 2014. I have an advanced police officer's license with the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. I have over 5,400 training and education hours with the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. I've been a police sergeant and a supervisor. I've won the 2017 Community Service of the Year Award. I have one of the highest executive leadership that you can have in law enforcement. It's known as the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association Trilogy Award. And it's a 3-tier program. It consists of your supervisory, command, and executive levels. I'm also a field training officer, a police instructor, and I hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Now, some of the things that we're trying to bring into the Fort Bend County Precinct 4 Constable's Office is, one, we want to have a civilian review board. And that board will be members of our community from different ethnicities, different races, different ethnic backgrounds, different social economics background, different professions. And they'll be tasked when we have a new policy change, when we have complaints against some of our deputies, or we have a use of force from one of our deputies. We will collectively sit down together at a table, review everything that is going on, all the facts that we have, whether if it's a policy change or if it's a complaint against one of our deputies, and collectively we come up with what we are going to do. I'm also going to mandate body cams for all of our deputies that are out there interacting with our citizens. I'm going to implement the Are You OK program. What that Are You OK program basically is, it's a program for our senior citizens. So we register our senior citizens and their next of kin, and we have a deputy contact them on a daily basis. And if they do not answer the call after about 3 attempts, we send a deputy out there to check on their welfare, and then we contact their next of kin. Now, you know, we need 21st century solutions for a 20th century problem. So that's why we're going to be implementing the 21st century police model that President Barack Obama signed into law back in 2015. And that emphasizes heavily on community-oriented policing, proactive rather than reactive patrols, officer wellness, officer training, all while rebuilding trust and legitimacy. We're also going to expand our reserve deputy program, which will save taxpayers millions of dollars by having a bunch of reserve deputies that are employed with us, that we hold their commissions. Now, you know, one of the other things that I'm really wanting to bring into the Precinct 4 Constable's Office is I've noticed a lot of religious establishments. There is one in New Territory called the Miriam Islamic Center. And they pay approximately $60,000 to have police officers out there during their Friday prayers. So when I found out that, you know, they were paying that much money, you know, I did some more research and found out that there are other churches and synagogues and religious establishments that are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for police presence to be out there. And I think that is wrong. One of the things that we are going to do is a religious establishment can fill out a form with us online, and we will send officers out there for free to patrol and provide security so individuals can practice and worship in peace. And they can utilize that money for other programs, like programs for their youth or infrastructure programs and things like that. Now, you know, some of the other questions, systemic racism. You know, currently, if you took a look at Sheriff Troy Nels and the Fort Bend County Task Force, there's a couple of other municipalities that are involved, like the Rosenberg Police Department. And 98% of the stops that were made were Hispanics, were Tejano. And So when they sit back and they say, hey, systemic racism doesn't exist, they are straight out lying to you. For you to target one ethnic background, 98% of Hispanics that are of the stops were Hispanic. You take a look at the city of Sugar Land. The city of Sugar Land, there was an article that Ted Oberg put out where you are 8 times more likely to be stopped if you are an African American, Hispanic, or an Asian American, and you are 8 times more likely to be stopped, given a citation, or arrested. So systemic racism does exist. Being a police officer, I've actually witnessed it myself working in Harris County. I am a Muslim American. I've been called names from other supervisors like Muhammad, and been called that I was part of ISIS, and have other deputies that are saying in roll call that they're scared to approach certain vehicles when they see a woman wearing a hijab or a headscarf that you see a lot of the Muslim women wearing, because they don't know if they were terrorists or not. So that is very offensive to me. And I also have seen deputies and officers racially profiling other minority groups like our African Americans and our Hispanics and our other Asian groups. So it does exist. The only way we're going to get rid of that is by voting, in these early votings that we have going on right now, and on November 3rd. We have to elect the right leaders. I need guys like Eric Fagan as our sheriff. I need, judges like Kylie Morgan and Tamika Carter and Christian Becerra, all the way up to our Supreme Court in Texas, Kathy Cheng. We can't do it all alone. We need everybody. We need a coalition of everybody that says, hey, this is enough. We are going to put a stop to all of this. And I know each and every single one of us will do something about the systemic racism that is plaguing us. It's very easy for someone to hate. And if we just all learn to just love each other and bring peace within each other and join together, then we wouldn't see all of this hate that's going on. I have 2 beautiful little girls. One of them is up there on my screen. She just turned 4 years old. But if I take her to a park, she will play with everybody. So hate is instilled into our children from parents and from society. And if we can stop that. Now, as far as the Sugarland 95 goes, Reginald Moore, may he rest in peace. When he started this, there was nobody that was standing with him. And, guys like our state representative, Ron Reynolds, our county judge, KP George, our district attorney, Brian Middleton, our party chairwoman, Cynthia Ginyard, and myself, and several other of our other amazing candidates stood side by side with them to address the Sugarland 95 and convict leasing. The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. And if we do not all get out there and vote, we're actually hurting ourselves. We're hurting, my children, our children. We're hurting our future generations. And voting is not only our right, it is our power. This year we lost a great legend, a champion for civil rights in John Lewis. And he went through a lot for us to have this right here today. So let's not forget about, him and all of our other amazing champions for, civil rights and voting rights. And please get out there and vote from the top of the ticket all the way down to the bottom of the ticket.
Thank you so much, Nabil. Does anyone have any questions for Nabil?
I just have a comment.
Bill,
He
thank
did a
you for
wonderful,
taking the time
wonderful
to-
job.
Oh, yes.
He did a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yes, and Dr. Shirley Rose, thank you. You are very inspiring. Dr. Shirley Rose was my principal at George Bush High School. I voted for you, Dr. Rose, and I've told my entire family to vote for you. My sister, we have, I guess you would say, 3 generations of of my brothers and my sisters that all went to Bush High School, and Dr. Rose was all of our principals.
Wow.
We actually did a video together, if you remember, during a food drive, and I posted it online, and I was getting phone calls left and right. Hey, is that Principal Rose? And I said, yes, it is. Hey, guess what? She's going to be on the school board. Make sure you get out there and you vote for her. She's going to do an amazing job for the Fort Bend ISD. And, I will talk on Fort Bend ISD because they did a poor job handling the Sugar Land 95. We need individuals that understand this is not just a political statement. This is a humanity statement for all of us. If I had a family member that just so happened to be one of those deceased bodies, I would want to bring dignity and respect to them. So they are, again, Reginald Moore did a lot. There was a lot of advocates for the Sugar Land 95 that are trying to find the family members of those who were deceased and who are part of that convict leasing program. And, guys, we just finished our first week of early voting. We're having record turnouts, but we cannot take our foot off that gas. We need to make sure we are coming out in numbers and coming out and voting. And if you don't want to stand in long lines, get out there to Smart Financial Center. I think probably 10 to 15 minutes or so. They have a lot of I think it's about 60 polling booths out there, if I'm not mistaken, where you guys can cast your vote at.
Thank you, Nabil. Thank you. You are an inspiration to us all. I love tonight. I'm going to make a personal commentary, although we do have 2 more speakers. I love the fact that we have such diversity of culture, of religions, of different backgrounds, and that all of us, one way or another, have experienced something that we shouldn't have. But that also makes us understanding and more committed to whatever jobs we do, to do them fairly and with compassion and with equality and tolerance and justice. So we thank you for putting yourself out there as a candidate, and especially as a parent with 2 small kids. I know that's not easy. So we thank you, and please share your information with our group. If you have yard signs, I'll be happy to distribute to the group. I know you mentioned it earlier, but we thank you for standing up for justice and seeing that systemic racism does exist, and knowing that it's just not enough to see it, it's enough to do something about it and change what happens from the bottom up. So we thank you for taking your time tonight and staying with us. And good luck.
I'm a very inclusive and transparent individual. So I'm probably one of the only candidates that will ever give out their personal cell phone numbers to everybody. So I just want to share my number to everybody. It's 832-755-0922. You can also email me at info@nabilshike.com. You can follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/Nabil Shike for Constable Precinct 4. And also go to our website, www.nabilshike.com.
Thank you, Nabil, and we wish you a safe and successful election season.
Thank you. God.
Thank you. God bless. Our next speaker, Dr. Shirley, if you don't mind, I'm going to leave you for last because we may have some more questions for you too. Our next speaker is Joey Cardenas, and he is running for the State House representative for District 85. And I know, Joey, you've been with us from the very beginning. Thank you for waiting.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you, and I want to share something with the group. The election that we have this year, where we're electing Texas House representatives, these representatives are the ones that are going to sit down and draw the maps, the election maps, for the next 10 years. I don't know if you can grasp the gravity of this election, but if you've been watching TV, you can see all the money spent on ads trying to promote these candidates. And a lot of it is a lot of lies and smearing, of course, which comes with the politics. But I just want to emphasize the importance of this election. And Joey Cardenas is representing District 85 as a Democrat. So we're going to let you speak to our group now and introduce yourself, Joey, and tell us about your position and your viewpoint. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on. I am a teacher. I have been a teacher for 27 years in my hometown. I've been in my hometown for 20 years in Wharton County. So District 85 represents all of Wharton County, all of Jackson County, and the southwestern part of Fort Bend County. You're absolutely right. This is going to be very important because what we do in this election, who we elect in this election, is going to ripple for the next 10 years into the future, where schools go, where libraries are going to go, how much money we're going to allocate to our schools, where are we going to build hospitals, what roads and what bridges are going to be repaired. All of that is essential to continuing the lifestyle that we are accustomed to here in Fort Bend County. So it is very important that people participate in this process and that they pay attention to who's going to represent them. So District 85 is a unique district because we have a southern rural area and we have a northern urban area. As a teacher, what's close to my heart is going to be education. One of the first bill that I'm going to introduce is to get rid of the STAR test because it has no validity whatsoever. If you go back and if you look at the 2005 figures, 15,000 students in the state of Texas did not get their diplomas in spite of having passed all of their classes in school. That is not fair. That is ruining young people's lives before they even get a chance to start. There's no way that you can convince me that standardized testing in the state of Texas is anything other than a billion-dollar business that we fall into. In the state of Texas, unfortunately, education, there are currently 3 experiments in education: standardized testing, voucher programs, and charter schools. All of them take funds away from our brick and mortar public schools. I believe in fully funded public schools. And let me say this also, because I tell people this all the time. We do not have to raise taxes to fund our schools 100%. All we have to do is demand that Austin give us more of our own money back into the districts, back into the school district, back into the counties. As your state representative, that's one of my commitments, to be sure that the state of Texas returns more funds back to its citizens. So you were asking earlier about the Sugarland 95. Let me say something about that. I sit on the historical commission in Wharton County, and I think it's very important that we tell those untold stories, that we document those untold stories for future generations. It's amazing to me that even now we have these type of discoveries still being made, and they have already passed out of memory, that people have forgotten. We've got to get back to telling those stories that are the stories of people of color. They're very important not only for the present, but they're very important for the future as well. In regards to racism, let me just say this. People of color know when they are discriminated against. It's the way people talk to us. It's the way people look at us. It's the way people treat us. Sometimes it's hard to prove, but we know it. We know when it happens. As the former state director for Texas LULAC, I saw many cases of racism come across my desk as well. I'll give you a good example here. My opponent, when he had the opportunity to help with the reauthorization of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, he actually signed a petition from the Texas Republican delegation telling the congressional delegation from Texas to vote against, asking them to vote against the reauthorization of the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Bill. That's the difference between tolerance and appreciation. I have an appreciation for culture. I have an appreciation for diversity. I'm very proud that Fort Bend County can lay claim to the most diverse county in the nation. But my opponent doesn't have that history. And that makes a difference. He has been very silent on these issues of education, on the issues of entrepreneurship, on the issues of racism. Even in this very pandemic, his office never issued anything, was never helpful in the process for its citizens. So basically, District 85 has not had a voice in Austin. Joey Cardenas, and I hope to be your candidate, your next state representative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joey, for taking the time. Although our district for State House is District 26, We thank you for taking the time to explain to us how important it is for House district members to value the educational systems and the redistricting and making sure that our diverse communities are heard, especially with the fact that schools are not funded, but yet they want to keep raising taxes and those kinds of things. Healthcare, that affects everybody in the community. And from my understanding, in Texas, we're one of the lowest states for Medicaid expansion. And that means a lot of people are just out there hurting, especially in a pandemic. So when we talk about systemic racism, it affects so many levels, especially healthcare, education, policing, just access to justice, and even access to voting, as we can see. But we're going to do our best.
Ari, you know, it's worth also mentioning that Texas is the second richest state in the nation. Our economy is as large as the country of Germany, and yet we rank at the bottom 5 with regards to the services that we return back to our citizens. We should be ashamed about that. We need to do something about that.
And that's right. Those are some of the things that are not said very often. And I apologize for the back. One other thing I wanted to mention is, even though you're not in our district, we are going to let our friends know. We're going to ask our friends. If you're in district
I think I do
85,
have a couple of. I think I do have a couple of voting precincts in your district.
Excellent. Well, that's what we want to do. We want to help you. We want to help all these worthwhile and brave candidates who are putting themselves out there and doing the hard work of trying to make our community and our state a better place. And we really appreciate you for making the time. And I hadn't met you yet. You came as a stranger. And like I said earlier, you leave as a friend. Please share with us your campaign information. And thank you for sharing this important information about the state. We do live in a wealthy state, but what good is it if the citizens are not feeling the benefits and not being able to just live even, you know? Healthcare is such an important thing. Thank you, Joey. And we wish you a safe and successful campaign. Any questions for Joey? We're good? Okay, thank you, Joey. Thank you so much and good luck. Please share your information with us and we appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
The other candidate, Sarah DeMerchant, who is running for State House Representative District 26. She couldn't make it this evening, but she does, like Joey, would be fulfilling the same position with respect to our district, and another state representative candidate, Liz Markowitz, who is in the Katy area and some gerrymandered part of Fort Bend and Sugar Land here. She is District 28. And that goes to show you that although someone may be far away, the way they carve these districts is just mind-blowing. And we need to get fairness in our maps, fair maps. So thank you for taking the time. Our last but not least is Dr. Shirley Rose-Gilliam. And again, I hadn't met you before, but you were so kind and responsive. I sent you an email and you quickly answered us back. And you're running for Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees, if I'm not mistaken, position 4. So thank you for joining us. And please go ahead and introduce yourself. And we look forward to hearing from you as well.
Okay, and thank you and good evening, good evening. You know, of course, as a teacher, it's like, you know, the last person that speaks is like, okay, you better make it short. You better make it short. So first of all, thank you so much. I am so full. I am so full. And I just, meaning that this is such a comfortable conversation to me. So thank you so much. I'm just glad that I was able to be here tonight. But at the same time, I just really, I'm going to ask the Lord to control my tongue so that I can be succinct and I can say everything that He wants me to say. First, a little bit about my background. I'm a 30-year educator with 25 of those years right here in Fort Bend ISD. I started at Willow Ridge High School. I was a teacher for 10 years. After I left Willow Ridge, I went over to Kempner High School as an assistant principal for 4. Then I was the associate principal at Elkins High School for 2. I was the principal at Bush High School for 7 years, and those are my babies. Those are my children. And then from there, Dr. Jenny was the superintendent. He asked me to go to Marshall. And he had some specific items for me to do, which I did. And then from there, I went to McCullough. And then when I left McCullough, I ventured over to HISD. And I was the principal at Wheatley High School for 4 years. So I've had experience on the east side and on the west side. And I want people to know about me, that I'm an educator and I'm about kids. If there's anyone that says anything about me, I can guarantee you there was something that went down with the child, because I'm a student advocate. I am one of 6 that attended, that actually went to school, went to college. And that was because of my my typing teacher at Madison High School. We're a blue collar family. Mom had a 9th grade education. Daddy had a 3rd grade education. They are from Church Point, Louisiana. Daddy got in some trouble and he hightailed it to California, and we were born in California. And so we were nomads. And I remember the very first Ruby Payne training that I went to. It was a matter of, could you identify, they were trying to talk about at-risk, well, she was talking about at-risk kids. And can you identify with being able to pack up and move within 3 hours? Yes, I can identify. It's really easy. You get the sheets out, you throw everything in the sheet, you get 3 trucks and you go through. And once you get where you get to, then you have a gumbo and you are in your new place. And so that's sort of, my history. But because of the teachers that have come in my life, I always wanted to be a teacher. We had some different issues, just like every time Khalid speaks, it's like, I so want to work with her and be with her, because, we have so many children that need so much help. And what happens is, back in the day, I'm retired now. I did my 30 years and I'm retired and I'm ready to give back. I have a doctorate in educational leadership from Texas A&M University. Only because somebody said I couldn't do it. And I was like, I didn't want to do it, but I was like, well, how could you say that I couldn't do it? So, but I do want to go back really quick. Had it not been for Helen Humphrey, who was my typing teacher, who decided to put a college application in front of me, I didn't have any other plans other than going to the post office, because I heard Mom and Dad talk about that. Mom said there's a 3-week paid vacation. So that was what was going to be my destiny, until Ms. Humphrey asked me about school. And of course, I picked to be a typing teacher just like she was. And so from there, I have 5 other brothers and sisters. We are all, they all either have a high school diploma or a GED. I went on to school not knowing that that was not what I was supposed to do. I didn't have any financial aid, even though I was magna cum laude and was number 15 in the class. I didn't know that I could have gone to school for free. So I worked at Safeway. And I paid my way, and that's just kind of how I got there. But I do want to say that we have 14, my mom has 14 grandchildren. And out of the 14 grandchildren, there are 8 with bachelor's degrees, and 3 of those have master's degrees, and we have 5 teachers. We became an educated family because of one teacher. And so what I was so freely given because of what my love for learning, and school was a place where we were safe, where I felt safe. And I just really wanted to go back there. So when I became a teacher, I never thought I was going to leave room 217 at Willow Ridge High School, never. And then, from there, it was about money and going and, and taking care of my family or what have you. So where I am, as far as where we talk about diversity, I have been on the east side. I've been on the west side. I've been at Kempner High School, to where it was the most diverse school in the district at the time. Then I was at Bush High School, which was the most diverse district at the time. So I'm about children and about doing the right things for kids. If it, one thing, and then Nabil, just running into him and seeing him, I cannot tell you what that means to an educator, to be able to be on the same platform. And Nabil, we went yesterday to vote, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And so it was just absolutely wonderful. So that's my background. What am I doing, and what is my platform? What I share now, I'm an educator who's coming to the school board. I'm an educator with the degree, as well as with the background. But we don't have an educator on the school board, and I've talked to several people over the weekend, and I'm like, well, why is that important? Well, it's important because we bring the perspective into the boardroom. Angie and Angie is just absolutely wonderful. And I know Ms. Cole, you said something about Angie, and I just want to just piggyback on that. If I tell you, this little lady, wherever we go, whatever we do, she's like, what's going on? And she has no fear. And so I just really appreciate, I appreciate her as an educator. And so, you know, we kind of call ourselves in the background the dynamic duo. You know, you have the curriculum part, and I have the, you know, knowing how a school runs. But with all of that being said, what makes me different? What makes me different is a matter of, first of all, the educational background, but being able to actually bring in what is going on in the school. Well, why is that important? Because there are things that now we're talking about social and emotional learning. We're talking about culturally relevant pedagogy when we're talking about kids. There are things that are just not being discussed on the school board, and it's time for them to be discussed. And the other part of that is when you're talking about diversity and systemic racism, and I have this thing about definitions. When someone asks me about something, even though I pretty much know what the definition is, I like to look it up. And what I like to, then I looked up what is, I put in systemic racism is a form of racism that is embedded as normal practice within a society or organization. Is there systemic racism? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And we have a lot of work to do concerning that, and we can make it happen. And I would love to be part of that conversation. And I believe that the voice of an educator needs to be in that conversation. And I don't want to take too much time, but back in 2003, when I first arrived at Elkins High School, I didn't know any better, and I just wanted everyone to understand the plight of the African-American male and Hispanics or what have you. And so we started a book study, and it was, Why Do All the Black Kids Sit in the Cafeteria Together? And that was by Beverly Tatum. And so that was way back then. And we had a lot of conversation about it, but unfortunately we didn't carry it on. It became something different. And, but that was okay. It was different just because people were a little bit afraid of it. And so now's the time for that conversation. So again, what makes me different, the Sugarland 95, and speaking of that, you know, we just didn't do the, you know, there's doing things right and there's doing the right thing. And in both of these situations, neither one happened, unfortunately, for Fort Bend ISD. You know, I am very, very sensitive to the plight of what was going on. Another part of my platform is just being transparent, and everyone says that. Well, what does that mean? I like to put it in just layman's terms. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Make it happen. If you didn't make it happen, then you need to stop and you need to explain why it didn't happen. But we need to do the right thing as it pertains to Sugarland 95. I remember we moved here in the winter of 72, and in 73, I remember the Sugarland, the plant, and then there was nothing but cane fields after that. And I remember Daddy talking about, you know, he would point out the horses because the correctional officers were on the horses and the prisoners were in white suits and they were farming. And that was something that was very different that I had never seen in California, but I soon became very, unfortunately, comfortable with it because that's just what you saw when you went in that area. So we do need to do a memorial, and we do need to make sure that it is done correctly, and it is done with dignity and respect. And that's exactly who I am. And how am I different from my the person that I'm running against? I ask questions. I ask why. And I'm just like Nabil. I'll give you my number right here, 281-799-5065. That is my cell number. I have always, from the time that I was at Bush High School, later after, we were having different issues at Bush. And it was a matter of, I even gave it to students, because I'm like, if something is getting ready to go down, we had a lot of issues. And I wanted to make sure that students could get in touch with me. And that was when text messaging just started. And I can remember, you know, students saying, because they wanted a safe school. And they didn't want the perception of, you know, we're always having fights, we're having this. And I'm like, well, you text me if you know something is going on. And if I tell you it was, you know, I didn't know who it was. It could be, you know, hey, we need somebody upstairs in the bathroom and the restroom at this time. And the students were the ones that really assisted and helped the administration and the teachers turn Bush High School into the place that it is today. And when I say the place that it is today, it's just, I handed my baby over, and I knew that it was time for me to in order for us, for someone to take it and bring it to a different place. What I want you to know, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. Coming to the school board and the reason for it, and I said I was going to be succinct, and I'm really getting ready to wrap it up. In 2005 and 2006, my first year at Bush High School, I received an award, and I was asked to go to the board meeting to get the award. Well, after I got it, they said, well, you can leave, you can leave. Well, I felt really weird about leaving. I'm like, everybody's going to see that I left. And I sat there, and I really found out I learned something. And so I became a boardroom rat. And I just continued to go back to the school board or to the board meeting so that I can learn things. So I'm very well aware of what goes on there. And at the same time, I always knew that I would give back. So that's who I am, Shirley Rose-Gilliam, one child of 6 that went to school that, you know, a teacher touched my life, and we became an educated family because of it. I'm just ready just to give right back. And I am honored to be in this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Shirley. We thank you, and we are so thankful that you shared your life story, because we all come from somewhere and someplace, and it's so amazing that there's people that just, you know, just take that extra time to make a difference in a person's life, and what a difference it makes. So that is a good reminder of who we need to be as citizens and leaders in the community, and we thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Shirley? Any questions? Robin, are you talking? You gotta unmute.
No, I'm just saying thank you for all your years of mentoring and motivating and dealing with so many students. And now you're still ready to give back. I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, we thank you. It's wonderful that you come from the experience of an educator and also an administrator, and also having to deal with different types of schools, because, you know, we all know that certain schools have better outlets than others, and right. Applying that educational standard in a fair way where students have the best educational experience they can have, and especially with young people too. The systemic racism does affect them in education, in discipline, in loss of opportunities, and in so many different ways where, you know, if systems are in place, and if leaders make it a priority to put these systems in place, we can turn a lot of lives around.
Definitely.
And give new opportunities. And thank you for that. And yes. Especially with reference to the Sugarland 95. As my friend Robin likes to say, Black lives matter even in death. And yes. This goes to show that we have an opportunity to educate our community that everyone is valuable, everyone is welcome, and everyone's life matters even in death. And so justice is certainly on the ballot this time around. I really want to thank you, because you did take the time to stick around and we're about a half an hour beyond what we thought we were going to be. So thank you for listening to us, and thank you for putting yourself out there, as you are indeed a public servant, and putting yourself out there to lead the public once again. And in addition to the issues of having equal opportunities in education and putting a better environment out there, we also see the importance of science, how important it is, science and safety for parents and children and teachers and administrators. And that is so important. And thankfully we have candidates that appreciate that too, because without our health, you know, we can say whatever we want, but that's what I always say. Without our health, we don't have anything. So we thank you, and we hope that you have a safe and successful campaign. I would love to have one of your yard signs, and we can organize it, and we can share them with our group. And this, like I said, is going to be and is being recorded, so they can keep track of what everyone had to say, because we have. I'm just blown away by the reaction. I was thinking we'd have about 4 candidates, you know, be interested to talk to us. So we had 11, and we also had Sri Kulkarni make a video for us, which I shared separately. So I'm just blown away by the compassion, the kindness, the openness, and the approachability of you all. And you're all trailblazers in your own right. And we are thankful to have you as candidates. Honestly, I'm speaking for myself, but I think I can speak on behalf of the group too. Right, guys?
That's right. Did
we
outstanding
wish you all
job,
the very best, safe, successful campaign. And please share your information with us so we can share it with the group. And let's get our friends out and our family members and everyone else to vote. Because we won't change anything if we complain. We got to vote.
That's true.
We got to vote. And,
That's right. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice seeing y'all. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck this week.
Nice to meet you. And I hope my husband saves the comments, because there's a lot of important information. So don't delete the comments yet. We're going to keep this all together. That's my husband. He's a professor at U of A downtown. He teaches math, and he's been a math professor for the last 20 years. And he's also my, you know, administrator here, helping me with the Zoom conference. So it's been very nice. And I also want to thank Lena Smith, who is on the call with us. Lena was also helpful in organizing and helping get out the word about this meet and greet. And we're happy to have wonderful community members that took the time to make, you know, help this happen and help all of you get the word out and introduce yourselves. And Brian, hello, Brian. He's a member of our group, and Bruce Lemmy, and of course, Miss Robin Cole. So
Thank you, Anna. Great job, Anna.
Thank
You're
you, guys.
inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you for running this. It was an excellent forum. Thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure too. My pleasure. I'm very humbled, honestly.
Very unique and informational.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let's get everybody out to vote. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right, good night.
Nice.
Good night, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.